Welcome to another episode of On Report. This week, we are simulcasting in the White Line Fever podcast, by the way. I've got to get that little plug in. And our guests, we're talking about recruitment. And our guests are Steve Gill, from the CEO of Castleford.
Yep.
Craig Harrison, player agent. And Bob Pickles, the famed talent scout from Leeds. How are you guys?
Fine, thank you.
I thought we might start by asking, who is the player you are most proud of and that you can claim to have discovered? We'll start here.
Oh, it's a tough one. I mean, people like Joe Westerman, when Joe Westerman signed for Castleford, I think well respected, but everybody knows that Joe Westerman was probably the best kid at 16 years old. Darrell Clarke for me was the one that nobody really came in for, and so I would say Darrell Clarke will probably be Oliver Holmes, who come through our ranks and nearly got a England night cap last year. So there's a lot of young kids. It's unfair to pick one out, but probably they two stick out for me.
Great.
I don't really spot them. I'll be honest with you. I get the nod, and then I go and look and see if they're right for me. Usually means if I see something I like the ball to be thrown about. I like it with a football, so usually I look for the backs. But I'm only off the tips of these guys. I will then turn out and have a look and make my own opinion. Steve's right. The ones that you think you make your own mind on that other people haven't. So if I get one and another agent's more or less said, I didn't fancy him, well then I feel good. And there's quite a lot of them, where you see something in them but other people don't. That's the ratifying one.
Well,
yeah. Well, the general consensus obviously is that certain boys have known all around the game at the time. So it's nice if you can go along and watch that man, and then somebody else catches your eye, and they're the ones that come through and push on. And it does happen that they push on at a later age than the boys who were. I remember years ago we used to have these camps, and there were Top Guns.
Yeah, Top Guns, yeah.
And there were only one ever Top Gun, to my knowledge, ever made it, which was Seb Walker.
Yeah.
He was the only named Top Gun. The rest of the Top Guns just faded away, and people overtook them. They're the ones is the ones that you can find that come through, but they're not the Top Gun, if you understand what I mean. But you know in yourself that they've got something a bit special. And
why do they fade away? Is it the bar over there? Is it the alcohol gets them? Is there other things?
There is that kind of things, but obviously it's development, body development at that stage, isn't it? And when you're getting into this professional environment that we're coming into nowadays, it's a tough world.
It is.
It's a tough world. Conditioners now set these standards of what they want lads to do, and some lads just can't handle it. It's as simple as that.
So, in all your time of spotting and developing young players, be it as a client or as a recruit, what has been the biggest change in the industry and the scene? Obviously, they weren't full-time professionals when you first started looking for players, were they? So how has that affected what you have to do to find these guys?
Well, from my point of view, the changing of them is usually what I've seen of them is nowadays the social media thing is quite different. The opportunities are quite the same as before. To get a kid through from 16 to get them through to the 21, I think it's the hardest challenge for anybody. That's for me as an agent, for the guys in their capacity, and for the first team coach. Bob's right. You can see a kid at 16. But actually you realise skill set's not that good. So you've got a kid at 16 who's 6'2", but actually when they catch him up, you suddenly realise that he's not that. I find with my lads, we call it the you don't want the kebab shop phone call, which I call it with the lads, which means they've had a bit of trouble. They're in kebab shop or taxi rank. But there's that many things on their mind. I go out with them sometimes, try and watch what they do, so you get a feel of what they do, which is quite different. But there is. We've been out in Leeds. I can remember going out with Leeds with Sam Burgess and a lot of the Leeds lads on a drink one day, and within 4 pubs, the pressure on them lads were horrific. And I can remember thinking it's just not worth it. It was just unbelievable. People, looking, standing, staring, asking them daft questions. Then a couple who were fancying the chances. So I think it's quite hard for them. I think Bob's right. If they get through that period of 4 or 5 years, they've got a hell of a chance.
Yeah. When they talk about the golden generation at Leeds and the players that you discovered, once you had that, you strike that rich vein of talent, do you keep asking yourself, does it happen again? Do you start asking yourself, is that something I did in my strategies, or do you I was just lucky? I mean, how do you deal with that?
I think luckily it probably started to happen again, fortunately at Leeds, as you can see with the backline at the moment, which is young and flying at the moment, is that backline. But also there's plenty of people come through, but it gets to a bottleneck as well. Because of this golden era of Leeds players that have now gone on and done 6 championships, been playing together for 10, 11, 12 years. There's lads who've come along in that time but can't get through because it's bottleneck, so they have to go off and find and luckily a lot of them have gone off and found the niche at another Super League club or lower at Championship clubs.
Steve, are good players still coming from the same geographical areas they always did? Or when we talk about the South, even though the London Broncos are struggling, there's some good players coming out of there now. There's fellas with Cockney accents in the England program. I mean, are good players coming from different places?
Certainly. I Phil Jones last year at the youth at London, I was speaking to him, and London beat us at their place last year at under-19s for the first time ever at that age group, and their investment that they putting down there was starting to pay dividends, and they got some cracking halfbacks. The thing with London is they've always been athletically right, they just couldn't learn the game as such as we know it up here, and they're just starting to do that now. And hopefully that continues, because you know, London could be one of the best academies because they've got such a vast range to choose from. Going back to what Bob said previously, you know, a lot of kids do want to play for Leeds. It's their junior setups around there are massive, and they continue to produce these kids, but there's only so many come through, and I'll take me out to Barry McDermott, who's done a great job at Leeds. If he thinks there's into pathway for that kid to come through, he will advise him to go to other clubs, and I think that's a testament of Leeds' strength and probably where we need to be as a club as well.
Okay, it's stories time. You guys must have fought over players over the years. Tell us a story involving 2 or all 3 of you.
Yeah, well, one I always look back for is turning up training down with a couple of young lads playing. We had Luke Burgess at Castleford as an under-16 who played in our under-16 side when we had them short spells, and also Ryan Hall, who trained with us, and unfortunately at that particular time he didn't fit the criteria that Castleford needed, so rest is history. So yeah.
Yeah, well, the Ryan Hall one, as the buzz had gone round, Ryan Hall, you need to get and see this young boy. He was already playing under-18 football, which is late. Under-18 football is late, because with the scholarships and so on now, you've picked him up at 16, hopefully. So there again, he's a good one because he's a late developer, he's Ryan. So I go and look at him, and yeah, he's a good kid. So we bring him in and we sign him on the Wednesday, I think it was. And on the following Saturday, I'm down in London with the academy, and the London coach at the time shouts me over and says, "Do you know anything about this young lad up your way called Ryan Hall?" He says, "We're looking at wanting to sign him." I said, "Oh yeah, I know a lot about him. I signed him Wednesday." So unfortunately, the faces went down like.
Yeah. And he's pretty much the best winger in the world at the moment, isn't he?
He is, and probably going back to one that we managed to sneak, and I don't think he'd have played for any other club at that time. With Darrell Clarke, obviously we heard the tom-toms that go around at Wakefield were looking at Darrell Clarke, and they're going to bring him in. And I hadn't seen him at that time, so it's frosty morning, we went over to York Acorn and watched him play. He wasn't best player on field by a long chalk, but what you saw is the potential, and that's what we do sign at young kids. We do pay a lot of money for potential at that time, and if they come through, great. And fortunately for us, that'll come through.
Okay,
we've got one. I got into the agents game because I went to a Leeds corporate day, and as you do on the golf days, you're looking for a good game of golf and a gallon of beer and a bit of banter. So we're in there, and Gary Edmondson said to me, "There's a young kid who's going to be a caddy," and the young kid at that time was Danny Mcguire, a 19-year-old Danny Mcguire. So I'm sat there sending him to shop for beers and the Mars bars and flicking him, and ripped him apart for 18 holes, didn't think anything of it, and he kept saying, "Oh, I'm not bad at rugby and I'm this," and I'm thinking, well, I've only watched 10 games of Rugby League Live, thing. I'd watched a lot on television, but I want into it as the intensive one. Year after, I'm sat at the stairs of Morallerton, who sat waiting for me with a bag, Danny, and he's saying, "Oh, did you watch me?" I said, "No, I've not had a chance to watch it yet, but I will do." He says, "Can I be your caddy again?" I says, "Yeah." So long story short, we get to the 18th hole, and he said, would you be my manager? I said, what have I got that you're looking for? He said, "Well, you make me laugh." I said, "That's great. That's a starting point." I then went to see him the week after, and I'd never seen anything like it. I can remember the intensity of the game, and it was at the time when Leeds, I think, played Bradford, and you'd get Fielden coming on and Barry Mack, and the crowd would be shouting, for the big fight, and all of a sudden Danny come on as a young guy. I'd never seen a kid be aware of the sport play and the talent he had, And from then on, he wrote the history books. It was fantastic to see a kid develop who I actually got to know personal, and it was fantastic. But yeah, when we first met him, I had no idea.
Okay, let's get a bit newsy. Now, we could do a whole 15-minute program on the player drain to Australia and the salary cap, so we're going to have to probably control ourselves a little bit, not go into enormous detail because we haven't got enough time. But what is the answer? There's a new TV contract. It's a lot of money. Can it be used to halt or slow the player drain to Australia? How should a marquee player system, if there is one, how would it work? Would it add to the inequality of the competition? Because not everyone can afford to give a marquee player as much money as other clubs. We'll just go around the table, I guess. Or Steve?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that. It has been discussed, and we're having one marquee player, and I think it was voted against. I think now the new TV deal, it owns it all up for another debate, and you know, it's up to a club. And you know, I find Dr. Kukash very interesting. I think he's a breath of fresh air to a sport, and I understand what he's trying to do. But I'm a believer. My belief is that you build a team, not buy a team, and that's always been my philosophy. But Craig,
I don't think you can, from an agent point of view, you won't stop it. Wherever there's and again, I'll go back to social media. Somebody asked me how did Jordan Baldwin and Mason Tonks. I've recently sent it to New Zealand Warriors from Bob's club at Leeds, which, you know, I didn't get invited back for the first month, did I, Bobby? You didn't talk to me for a month, but we're friends now. But I made a decision purely on what I saw as the pathway and a lifestyle choice. People ask me, how did they know about it? I said, well, social media gives them their inside. Sam Burgess and the likes of the Burgesses have gone over there, and James Graham and all that. They're talking to him every day. I think the young lad, Daniel Smith, had gone to the Rabbitohs. He were talking to him, telling the lifestyle. So all of a sudden, I'm getting asked the questions off the young lads. I think last year we sent 78 players an inventory of what they want to do in the future. Well, I think there were 56 mentioned go to the NRL.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's the type of things that's in their heads. Now, I'm a believer in our game. I think I said last time, we've got to get I love to go watch young players play, and that's what I get the kick out of. And seeing the development of that young kid, and one day you get the Rob Burrows, the Mcguires, they've done the lot, who've done the grand finals, they've played at every high stage, and they made it through. But life now, they've got options.
I'm kind of agreeing with Craig on that one about the marquee player. Sure, it'd be nice to keep him here, but my answer to that is, if the marquee player goes, then I have to get out on my fields and have a look and find the next marquee player.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. Because this is my call, rather than putting that money on a marquee player, I would rather it were put on youth development.
I agree with Bob, and I think a lot of the money that we're getting now from Sky has got to filter back down into the juniors, the Lot Lanes, the Cass Panthers, the Smallthorne Panthers. Smallthorne Panthers run on two teams, but we've got a Great Britain International there, two Great Britain Nationals that come from that club, which was Brett Ferris and Michael Shenton. A small club like that, playing on a council field, to produce that type of players. We need to more investment in the junior clubs, so we can get more players coming through. Would you call them marquee players? I certainly would. So, you know, why do we spend money overseas? Let's develop what we've got, because these clubs are having it hard at the moment in time. Financially, they're having it hard. Let's filter some of that money back through into us grassroots and get the young players playing.
As a fellow who's going to get a vote on the next time it goes before the clubs, it sounds like you're not going to be sticking your hand up for the marquee player system.
I keep saying, look, we need to build. We need to build our juniors up again.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of young kids not playing rugby league anymore. We're in a time where there's technology, where there's iPhones, there's everything else. So when they get home on a night and all they do is play on computers, we've got to get them playing sports again. Obesity rates up. We've got to get them back playing rugby league, and it's our job to do that. We need to do it, and we need to do it quickly before we lose a lot of these amateur clubs. Because once we've lost them, we aren't only lost the clubs, we've lost the training fields, we've lost the clubhouses, and we've lost what we think is our breeding ground. And we can't do it anymore. Put the money back into the juniors, not go overseas and bring in overseas players.
I just want to finish off with, guys, just on the process of actually scouting a player and seeing it right through to that signature. What's the most extreme measures you've had to go to actually secure that contract, and the speed time in doing that? Because we've got famous stories, probably in rugby league, about you turning up with balaclavas on and taking the mothers out of the kids for a date and things like that. Bob, can we get you at it?
Well, that might be true about the second part, but I certainly don't wear balaclavas. One thing about, and you're right, you're probably right about that, mothers do take the children all around the place. One of the stories I have to have on this one is, there's many a time I've gone and looked at a young lad and spoke to the mother, and the father's not on the scene, but you can guarantee that the following week the dads turn up to watch him, because they know that I've been talking to him. But I went to Salford, and I remember going to watch a certain player at Salford in a Lancashire Cup final.
Sorry, Bob, can you name that player, Bob? Because I think we...
Yeah, I will do, yeah, an under-17 Cup final. And I saw this other boy playing called Adrian Morley, who was the centre. And I thought, he's a bit special, this kid. But yet nobody had been bounding his name particularly about. So when the game were over, they got the winners' medals. Adrian picked his winners' medal up, went to the side of the field, and I watched where he took it, give it to his mum and dad. Straight down me to his mum and dad, say it away. Mr. and Mrs. Morley, I'd like to, any chance of talking to your son? Yeah, sure there is, yeah, I'm from Leeds and everything. And by the Monday, we had him signed on then. So that was Adrian. The following week, he played in an international up at Workington, and everybody's up there, all the scouts and everybody, and they're all looking at him, and he has a real game, and everybody's buzzing about, talking about him. And I just stood at back at bar thinking, well, he's done and dusted, too late. So that was the Adrian one.
It's nice to hear that, because there's a lot of claim to fame that they signed him, didn't they?
Yeah.
You know what I mean by that, don't you?
Yeah.
I think mine was, I'd got man flu all over Christmas, and I wanted to sign Jordan Thompson, and I managed to speak to Jordan, and I got out of my sick bed on Boxing Day, and I spent all Boxing Day afternoon convincing him why Castleford Tigers were probably the best club for him. And I got him over the line with a bus pass, believe it or not.
Was that a salary cap breach?
I think we were about £10 a month over the salary cap for him. So yeah, it was great. Just I managed to get him over with a bus pass. That was. Yeah, we get some stick with that, I bet.
I bet you can. I did a thing on the recent Ben Evans when they were just first on the scene, and I went to see the lovely Mother Jane, and I think I was the third agent to have the interview for the thing, and I was thinking, what could I do different? How could I act? And I tried everything, and we actually went for a banquet, Chinese. Now the bill I think we ended up eating about 19 courses, of which we polished off every one. And it gave me time to really get to know the mum and get to know the family, and I tried to be really honest. But it was definitely the cheapest Chinese I've ever had in my life.
Okay, you three of the best judges of rugby league playing flesh in the country. So we'll finish the program. We'll give all the viewers out there a person to watch, a player to watch. I know I've dumped this on you, so who wants to go first?
Is that his own clubs or anywhere?
Anywhere.
Go on, Craig, I'll let you go. I think.
Well, I have to be
Wouldn't
careful.
be one of your clients, would it?
Yeah, of course. I have to be careful, because last time I think we did one on the report, I got about 19 texts that night saying you didn't mention me in your players to watch. So I think last time I mentioned Ben Curry, who I think that's not an hard pick, that one. Yeah. That's just it's going to happen. When you see somebody as athletic and the determination, the skills on show, and what he's already done, and you can see the improvement in it, because like we've said, some kids are at 16, 17, when they're tight round here and the chins and they're a man, you can see the development's not going to be there. They already are there. When you see them and they've still got that baby face, and these lads will tell you that they've got the athleticism to actually grow into that, you've got a hell of a chance. I go Ben Curry, but there's also, I'll put one in, I'll go for Liam Sutcliffe, who I think at Leeds, if he plays like he did last year and keeps on listening, keeps on learning off Danny and Kev and Rob, and the environment he's in, and I don't think we haven't got I think Sidney Rabbitoh's got a 6'2", number 6. We might have one with Sutty, he'll be 100 kilos, who's at that thing, and also Zach Hardacre, I think this year will become. That's for me. Zach Hardacre will become, I think, the number one fullback in this country.
We spent a lot of money on extras in this program. She's on a fortune.
Yeah, he's right. He's right with Liam Sutcliffe. I'm sure of that. You don't get a lot of young men come through at 17, 18 years of age, but when you do, they're very good out there. I mean, I'm taking, for instance, Callum Watkins played in a World Club Challenge at 17 years of age, right? And I don't think we've yet seen the full potential of Callum Watkins. I think he will turn out to be very, very special.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a Malmaninga type special.
And Steve, you thought you were going to get off, but
yeah,
then,
no, definitely Sutcliffe. I watched him last year and I was really impressed with everything he did. He plays well above his age. For us as a club, I think James Clare's going to mature into a top fullback, even though he's on wing, and young Ben Reynolds as well. I think he's got a lot of potential and he'll come through slowly and given time. But Liam Sutcliffe for me could definitely be the next Great Britain.
And even if they do spend a couple of years in Australia, they can still play for England and they can still come back to Super League. So it's not the end of the world.
Let's not talk about
on that, we've already. It's quite funny you mentioning it because somebody asked me the other day, when do the Aussie clubs know about them? Well, trust me, they know about everyone, which I find quite remarkable. They must have good scouting things because as soon as these guys are actually making the first team debuts, it's coming through already. We need to have a look at him. I had 4 NRL clubs on the Sutcliffe thing. As soon as he made his thing saying, my God, boom, 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 Ben Curry had a right go with the Aussies in the under 18, so straight away he got over there. He was asked by 3 or 4 clubs. This is why Leeds and Warrington are putting him on long-term deals, because they're securing their future. But we'll leave it at this, and I think both lads have said it, which I totally agree with. Behind everyone that goes through, they might lose a player and he might go on to what they say a bigger club or a bigger thing. Whenever we've got lads like this, we've got a chance of bringing people through, because they do. Every year I think, oh my God, if I lose a player or this and that, we guarantee you'll get a phone call and it's somebody saying, you need to see this 16-year-old lad, he's playing at so-and-so. You're getting your car, as I did on Sunday, and all of a sudden you're seeing the next Danny Mcguire, and you're seeing the next Darrell Clarke, the next thing. So I'm sure they can tell the tales all day of how you see it. They will produce in rugby league if the money goes back into the
It's got to go
grassroots.
back to grassroots.
Well, the chips smell great, so we're going to dig into them. Thanks for joining us, guys, and thanks everyone for watching.